This is the Gamerstorm Macube 550. It's a full tower case made by DeepCool that measures 526 millimeters long, 241 millimeters wide, and 520 millimeters high. It has lots of room for water cooling or fans, supports a wide range of motherboards and form factors. The DeepCool 550 has this sort of minimalistic style. The DeepCool case is actually branded with Gamerstorm, which is a company or group by DeepCool. So it's sort of like Oris is to Gigabyte. So this is actually a DeepCool case. It just doesn't say DeepCool on the case. It has a lot of support for various configurations, but the major thing is it's meant to have airflow from the side, not from the front. So by design, the front is kind of closed off. Even though you can mount three 120 millimeter fans in the front, it's not really designed to be mounting fans in the front. It's designed to be mounting fans in the side. So in order to enable this, if you actually look at their website and pictures of the case, it's not completely evident, but these holes on the side of the case are actually pretty deep. There's also lots of room on the inside of the panel, so you have a lot of distance between the fans and the back of the side panel for airflow. So if we just look at the inside of the side panel, we can see a 25 millimeter thick fan, how it compares to the amount of space you have. So actually there's quite a bit of room for fans and radiators and really whatever kind of thickness or configuration you'd want to come up with. This is a $110 case. It has a glass panel, and it's kind of cool because it uses magnets to hold on the panel. And at first you would think that this would just kind of fall off if you move around the case, but actually these magnets are really strong. The only downside to this that I've encountered is the fact that it's kind of awkward putting the glass panel back on because it uses metal hooks at the bottom of the panel and magnets at the top of the panel. So sometimes the magnets attach before the hooks and it just makes an awkward situation. So we're going to test thermals in this case, and for this we're going to use a Z390 Dark 9900K and a H150i Pro, which is a 360mm all-in-one by Corsair. We're just going to do all the configurations. So front panel, side panel, and then all the panels off. And I'm going to give you all that data now. The results are pretty interesting. So as we expect, that the front panel basically sucks. And if you take any of the panels off, it performs better than any of the panels on. This is not news to anyone, or it shouldn't be news to anyone. But what I thought was interesting is that the side panel isn't actually that much worse than the front panel. And I should mention that the 9900K was stock. The temperatures are still pretty high. I actually mounted the fans in a pull configuration just to make it easier to deal with mounting the actual radiator in the case. You'll probably get slightly better temperatures if you do a push configuration through the radiator, but this still gives us some data points. And if we actually look at the front panel, how it's constructed, we can see that there's almost no room for air to actually get into the front panel. It's kind of impressive that the front panel has these small gaps that are almost just millimeters thick, and it still doesn't perform all that much worse than the side panel with the giant holes. That being said, these temps aren't great. These temps kind of suck, and it's not great. The case is really meant to look cool. It does perform better than I thought it would perform, just because it's restrictive by its nature. They're going for more style than performance. And so it's good at what it does. I mean, by design, it's a restrictive airflow case. It wants to look cool. It doesn't want to perform good. And I have a 280mm all-in-one in there right now with the Rampage 4. If you mount anything in the front, it's going to be in the way. So you're going to have to actually mount the fans behind the radiator, which works out because you can do a push config on the side panel and still have room for the front panel. So that's kind of nice. Now when I was testing, like I said, I used a Z390 Dark. And so anybody that's familiar with that board knows that the power connectors are at a 45-degree angle. And it did make it kind of awkward to fit in this case, but it did fit. And that board's not really meant to be mounted in cases. That's just not what that board is for. It's for overclocking. So here we have a Rampage 4, which is a more appropriate example of a eATX board in this case. Everything fits great. There's lots of room, as you can see. When I was actually doing the testing, I actually wanted to use a 980 Ti. So I have a Kingpin 980 Ti, and I wanted to use that just because it makes more heat. So we'll have more of a worst case scenario, right? So in the process of mounting it, this case actually has vertical brackets if you want to attach a GPU vertically, right? Well, if you have a extended board, a GPU, so one that's wider than normal, you're gonna have clearance issues with this case. So I have two cards here. One's a RX 570 and one is the 980 Ti Kingpin, and they are different widths. So the RX 570 does fit in the case perfectly fine. There's like millimeters of clearance, but it fits. But if you're using something wider, like for example the 980 Ti Kingpin or any other wider card, and there's a lot of them out there now with the 2080 Ti's, a lot of the AIB partner cards are wider than normal. They might not actually fit in this case. You might actually have to do a vertical GPU setup. So I had to actually remove this bracket right here and unscrew it and leave it unscrewed in order to fit a wide GPU in here. And so it's not great. But if you're using any other sort of reference card, like I have a 1080 reference in there now, it fits absolutely beautifully. There's nothing wrong with the compatibility of those cards. So should you get this case? Well, it all just kind of depends on where your priorities are. So this is a really nice case. It's built really well, especially for the amount of money you pay. It's like $110. The side panels don't wobble when you handle them. The front panel cables, they're slim cables, so they're not round and fat. They're really easy to just route around and fold up. And it's really nice experience building inside the case. The case has lots of room for fans, radiators. You can mount pretty much anything you'd ever want in there, with some caveats. Like I said before, the extended form factor GPUs might be an issue. And of course there's the airflow situation. So by design, the front panel is restrictive. So if you can live with all that stuff, then I think this is a great case to get. It looks super nice. It's built really well. And you can tell they did a lot of attention to detail when designing this case. Now, there seems to be some little confusing bits because this is a new case. So on DeepCool's website, it says on one spot that it doesn't support eATX. So it says it only supports up to ATX. And in another spot on the website, it says up to eATX. So there seems to be a lot of confusion even within DeepCool. And the packaging in this case, there are actual stickers on the glass that don't peel off. I had to actually scrape them off with a razor blade. So that's not that great. But this is a new case. It's a new design. But it seems to work okay. And honestly, for $110, you could buy worse cases. This is a great case for the price point. If it was a little bit more money, I would probably be more critical of it. But for like that much money, it's a good case. You can't really go wrong with that. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, put a comment down below, and until next time, bye.